Oh, testify.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to not only bring you another video, but I'm here today to let you know how we're gonna resurrect the Reverend D-Von character, if you will. We're gonna talk about the rise of the Reverend D-Von character, as well as the fall of the Reverend D-Von character. So sit back and enjoy this sermon. Now let's get started.
Tonight, we will witness the first ever World Wrestling Federation draft.
So in 2002, Vince McMahon came to Bubba and myself and said that he had an idea, and that idea was to break up the Dudleys. Now, we weren't happy with the idea because we still felt that there was more to do. We said okay because what were we gonna do, say no? Hey, we can't say no to the boss. So we went through it, and then the draft was done that Monday. Bubba went to Raw and I went to SmackDown. It was a challenge. Remember, I had been with Bubba for 10 years at this point. So me being in tag team wrestling and now going into a singles run, I felt at first it was gonna be very difficult. But the more I started preaching to the masses of people out there, the more I got comfortable. I started taking stuff from my mom and dad. I started taking stuff from everywhere. And thus, the Reverend D-Von character was formed. All right, boys, you know I know a thing or two about ladders. Your ladder could be standing up tall and saluting to your lady. Keep it going like a genetic jackhammer. I mean, just keep pounding and pounding. Then I suggest you do what I do, or what so many are doing today, and that's Blue Chew. Blue Chew will keep that ladder standing tall. Even when it's all said and done, you'll be there saluting with your ladder to your lady. I got a special deal for all my fans. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free. Just use promo code DVON and pay the $5 shipping fee. Get your Blue Chew now, and I guarantee you, not only will you be happy, but she won't want to leave you. And the best thing about it is, it's all done online. No awkward visits to the doctor, no waiting in line for the pharmacy. Just sign up at BlueChew.com to consult with a licensed medical provider. Great sex and great pumping is only a few clicks away. For more detail and important safety information, visit BlueChew.com. Thank you, Blue Chew, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the content.
Tonight's sermon has to deal with masturbation. That's a sin. Oh, that's a sin.
When Vince McMahon came to me with the idea of becoming Reverend D-Von, I was a little shocked, but at the same token, I thought it would be a cinch. Because you see, that's kind of like my background. That's how I grew up. Because he knew I came from a church family, and he knew that both my parents were reverends. And with the whole testify and doing all of that, it kind of fit perfect. What I loved about it the most was Vince let me be able to be me. He knew that I knew the scriptures left and right, and there were times when I actually would go to him and say, listen, this is what I'm gonna say. He stopped me in mid-sentence and said, I have confidence in you. I've heard you do this before, so therefore, I wanna go along with it. I want to just be surprised as you're talking. And that's exactly what we did. We hit a home run every single time we did a promo. I started getting into my groove, started really enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, I miss Bubba, but there was something different about me doing it by myself and connecting with the people with the new character. To me, it just flowed. When I went back home and showed my mom and dad the first video, my dad sat me down and pretty much said, son, when you're done hooping and hollering in the ring, make sure you come back to where it really counts, and that's the pool pit. He started giving me advice on how to lay things out. And he started telling me different scriptures and things like that that I can use to make the character better. And that's exactly what I did. So the first time my music hit, I didn't like it. It sounded like Catholic organs playing. And as you know, I come from a Baptist church, so there should not have been Catholic organ playing at that time. Nothing's wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't sit right with me. So I went back to Vince and I told him I wasn't happy with the music that was provided for me. So therefore, he went back to Jim Johnston, who did all the music for the talent during that time, and he changed it to The Righteous Man, which people listen to now all the time and said it was a great song because it fit my character so well. So someone who was higher up at the time and who is still affiliated with the WWE, Bruce Pritchard, who had a lot of success with the Brother Love gimmick, basically told me that I was gonna have somebody that was going to help me spread the word. And that person was a 350-pound, 6'4", 6'5" machine called Batista. At first, I remember him when I saw him when he came up for a couple of tryouts and thought this man was bigger than life. And to be able to move the way he did in the ring when I saw him right before he got with me, I thought it was a perfect fit. And at first it really was. We drove together, we did everything together, and we kind of made the character work. I thought the Reverend D-Von character just took off at that point, and we were rolling. It got to the point where we were beating up people like Randy Orton, Val Venus, and somebody who's making headway now, John Cena. So I got to work with a young John Cena. He was fresh up from OVW, which was WWE's developmental company at the time. And again, he was young, he was green, he's not the John Cena that you see now. He was very, very eager to learn. He basically had to slow down a little bit because, you know, he was anxious and all of that. And what right person to put him in the ring with than me? I don't go a million miles an hour when I'm in that ring. I like to take it as slow as I possibly can. And him and I had good chemistry. A lot of times, even after when I came back to WWE in 2015, him and I discussed that and how he said he had a good time with the Reverend D-Von character because he enjoyed it because it was so different than anybody else. I had the opportunity to wrestle Triple H in a singles match, first time ever, and actually won that match with the help of Chris Jericho, of course. But still, when you look in the win-loss column, D-Von beat Triple H. So I don't want to say too much because he might try to bring me back in the ring and get his revenge. I don't want that. So I'm going to be nice and say thank you, Hunter. Thank you for actually laying down for me and trying to help that Reverend D-Von character get over the way you did. As D-Von Dudley, I was cheered. The fans loved the D-Von Dudley character. They loved the D-Von get the tables. They loved the Dudley boys. Now, the Reverend D-Von character is now turning into the bad guy, which in pro wrestling we call a heel. And being booed out of the arena sometimes, it was kind of cool. Because when you want to be a bad guy, that's what you want. You want to get booed, you want to get hated. And that's exactly what happened with the Reverend D-Von character. It was getting to the point where a lot of people back in that era basically was watching TV evangelists like Benny Hinn and Jimmy Swagger, who were all being pulled from the pulpit because of the fact of what they were doing outside of the church. They were naturally bad guys right away. So I wanted that same heat. I wanted to be able to generate that much hatred for my Reverend D-Von character, and I think it worked. There was one particular promo that we did with Vince McMahon, Batista, and Stacy Keibler. We were praying right before Stacy Keibler went out to take on Trish Stratus. Now in Trish Stratus's corner was gonna be Bubba Ray. And of course in my corner was gonna be Stacy Keibler. I'm sitting up there praying, and as I'm praying, Vince McMahon is right next to Stacy Keibler. Everybody's head is bowed, every eye is closed. And as I kind of look up a little bit, I see Vince looking at Stacy in a lustful way. And when that happened, I guess I was going a little too long for Vince. So he kind of went, I was like, amen. And that kind of stopped everything. So that was when everything really started to take off for me. It felt good to be able to have the focus and the spotlight on me at that time. Again, Bruce Pritchett, he was the one that helped behind the Reverend D-Von character. He was the one that gave me the confidence to go out there and do it. And then I came into work one day and found out that Bruce was no longer going to be affiliated with that character. Paul Heyman was going to take over. Now, who would better know D-Von than Paul Heyman? The man who helped create me in ECW. Like I like to always say, ECW made me a star, but the WWE made me a superstar. So to have Paul Heyman writing for me at that time, I thought it was great until I read the verbiage. Paul Heyman is such a genius, he's such a mastermind, that he was writing these words that I couldn't even pronounce, let alone spell. So I was having a little difficulty with the promo. And I remember Paul pulled me aside and goes, read the promos, but put it in Reverend D-Von's words. Don't worry about going word for word what I said, but do it in your own character. And it somewhat worked. It really did. It started to flow, everything started to do well. And then, like I said, all of a sudden, the character somewhat went downhill. It was something, I guess, Vince didn't feel that the character was getting over quick enough. He didn't like it anymore. He had fun with it, but then it was like he wanted to put it on the shelf and not really use it anymore. That started the downfall of the Reverend D-Von character. I thought I was getting the character over. The fans were responding. The guys in the back, the talent in the back was loving it. But like we always say, there's only one man that you play to at that time, and that's Vince McMahon. And he didn't think the character was going the way it should go. So unfortunately, the character was starting to be pulled little by little. It got to the point where Batista turned on me in the middle of the ring and pretty much left me laying. That was when I knew that the ride was over. I didn't know where I was gonna go or what I was gonna do after that. Because after that, I was either not being used or I was getting beat. And I was getting beat relatively quickly from talent that was not even mid-card at that time. So I had to try to repackage myself and try to do things again. And now I'm in the middle of trying to find myself again with a character that I felt very complete with at that point in time, but now I had to restart over. Nothing's worse than having to start over when you already thought that a character that you were pushing and make happen is now dissolving right in front of your eyes. I can understand if the character wasn't going well, if the people weren't responding, but the people were responding. But again, like I said, you played a one man and one man only, and that's Vince. And at that time, he wasn't excited about the character. So with that being said, the Reverend D-Von character was no more. It started to fade off into the sunset.
This sermon, oh my brother, is over.
I remember being pulled by the side by Michael Hayes. And Michael Hayes pulled me aside and said, D-Von, I want to talk to you for a second. Listen, we're thinking about putting the Dudleys back together again. And I was a little disappointed because not because I didn't want to get back with Bubba, was because I was really angry that the Reverend D-Von character was put on the shelf, which I felt for no reason. When he told me that, I said, okay, not a problem. I said, when are they going to do it? He says, well, Survivor Series is coming up Sunday, and we want to do it there. Bubba was having a match. It was Bubba, Jeff Hardy, and Spike versus 3 Minute Warning and Rico. When 3 Minute Warning was beating the dog mess out of Bubba, basically, here I come as being the savior.
Hey, wait a minute, what the heck? That's D-Von!
I started knocking Rosie, I started knocking Umaga, started going back and forth, got rid of them, and then we finally put Rico through a table. The ovation that I received when I ran back into the ring to help Bubba was tremendous. It was so loud, and what better place than Madison Square Garden, my hometown. It was great to be able to do that, even though I was still feeling a little way about the Reverend D-Von character not making it, but yet appearing at Madison Square Garden, doing a run-in to help Bubba to win that match was great. And I was very happy and content with that at that point. And now the Dudley boys are back together, and the Dudley boys are now creating and making history after that. The Reverend D-Von character lasted 7 months. And within that 7 months, like I said earlier, I was happy. I was content with everything that was going on. Talent thought it was doing good. The fans, I thought was doing good. And it was very heartbreaking to know that it wasn't gonna happen anymore. There were so many visions that I had about the Reverend D-Von character. I wanted to be the crooked preacher that basically was asking for money in a collection plate. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the young lady in the front row, getting all excited, winking at her. It was something that I thought that would really generate good heat for me at that time, but apparently the powers that be did not see it that way. And people still come to me today and talk about it, even though it was like 20 years later, but they still talk about the Reverend D-Von character. And they pretty much tell me how it was sad that it did not work and that the powers that be let it fall through their fingertips. But that's the way it is sometimes in the wrestling business. So one of the things I was happy about was that in NXT, Trick Williams called me and wanted me to do a video with him, getting ready for his match. So when he called me, he said, D-Von, you did the Reverend D-Von character and I loved it. He was like, I would love for you to come in this video and do exactly what you did back then. I was ecstatic. I was like, yes, I get a chance to showcase what the Reverend D-Von character was all about to the new generation of fans. And it was a great response. It was something that the fans were really enjoying because this was something that I really felt that I never got my just due for because I thought the character was doing really well. Again, I look back on it, I don't think it was my failure. I think it was the companies that didn't let it really breathe and let it happen. Hopefully one day I'll be able to come back as Reverend D-Von, but without being in the ring. All right, everybody, so thank you for joining me for this video on my thoughts on the Reverend D-Von character. You know what? Do me a favor, please like and subscribe to this video and to this YouTube channel. And also, if you could do me a favor, the Reverend D-Von character, as far as I'm concerned, is still going. I still have a church, but I never finished it. You see, I never finished getting the doorknobs. I never finished getting the stain on the glass windows. So if you can, reach down in your pockets and help a brother out. HBO, help a brother out. So until next time, after those donations are put in this plate, oh my brother, testify!